Hey guys, meteorologist Tucker Antico. Obviously, pretty big severe weather day coming up here. It's May 6th. We have a high risk in place across Kansas and Oklahoma. And yeah, thought I'd give my thoughts as this event gets underway and begins to play out. First things first, we got radar. Just got our third active tornado warning. Funny enough, we actually have tornado warnings in Tennessee today, and that's in a spot where we were anticipating severe weather, but nothing significant. So interesting to see several of those pop up. Hopefully, people are staying safe out there. But our main event out here in the central U.S. Featuring storms firing off a boundary and entering an area where there is just more than ample ingredients for spin. Tornadoes to spin up, instability. Really is going to be a very busy day, and you can already see again these storms emerging semi-discrete in Oklahoma. We do have some storms staying farther north that are going to produce a lot of wind. You're seeing that in southern Nebraska right now. Central Kansas, we could see some big hailers out here. Wind, of course, as well. Tornadoes are going to be a concern too. And like I said, down towards Oklahoma, you're already seeing again some of those, cellular storms pop up. We're sort of semi-discrete to discrete right now. Pretty nice flying V shape on that storm out near Woodward, Oklahoma. That's the one that's tornado warned, and it's just the start of what will be a very busy day. So some of the parameters that are in place. There's just a ton out there. I guess we'll start with where the high risk is, though. You can see that, like I mentioned, in Kansas and Oklahoma. If we take a closer look at Oklahoma more specifically, it's not hard to see. Again, there's your high risk right there. Anywhere from almost Lawton up into near the Wichita, Kansas area. And this is, again, your 30% tornado, and of course, it's hatched as well. I wanted to pull this from from MOOR, actually, the National Weather Service out there. They say, they mentioned the overall environment will support large to giant hail, more than 3 inches in diameter, which is, more than impressive, and significant long track tornadoes with any discrete supercell that develops. So we're going to see upscale growth, especially in Kansas. That's where you're going to have more of that wind threat, still significant tornado threat. But anywhere where you're going to have these discrete or semi-discrete cells, that's where you can have long-lived tornadoes. So if we look at our HRRR run, this is the 18Z, you can actually see in Oklahoma, as opposed to some other runs, it was a lot more aggressive with the upscale growth. You can see that line of storms here. Now, thing is, the cap today, based on soundings that we've gotten, is a little more robust than guidance has shown. So if we take a look at the 12Z for reference, this may end up being more accurate, even though it was a longer run ago. You can see these storms emerging and remaining more discrete to semi-discrete in Oklahoma, and that's where we could have significant tornadoes develop as you have that, again, more discrete sort of nature, whereas the upscale growth, that largely remains in Kansas, but we'll still need to keep an eye on some of these discrete cells that emerge ahead of the main line. So anything that stays discrete, you can get those long-lived and potentially strong, even violent tornadoes today. We'll take a look at our meso analysis too. Not hard to see the boundary. We got a dry line out there today. You can see where all those blue dashed lines are. That's basically telling you where the moist air and the dry air are meeting each other, and that's helping to initiate the storms today. Now, we also, of course, are talking about how discrete storms will remain. So what we can do is we'll take a look at our mixed layer cape. Not so much of a cap out there now, but clearly we're not seeing everything pop off yet. It is a dry line, so that forcing is not going to be quite as strong as another type of front. But really importantly too here is actually our mean wind. And you remember that boundary, it's north-south. What you're seeing with the mean wind is that it's pretty close to perpendicular to our boundary. And when that mean wind is perpendicular, the cold pools of storms are blown out ahead of the front. They don't congeal, so you don't get as much upscale growth. And as long as that is the case, we're more likely to see what will be more discrete development. Some of the parameters in place, more than enough cape. We're looking at 3,500 joules per kilogram up through Oklahoma into Kansas. You can see that tongue that extends up towards Nebraska right ahead of the boundary, so tons of energy to work with in terms of instability. We'll look at our 6 kilometer shear. This is, again, bulk shear is plenty. All you really need is 40 to sustain some solid supercells. We're talking about 50 plus, and that's perhaps going to pick up later on. At least that lower level shear will as we get into the evening. This tornado threat will increase in the evening as that begins to occur, as the jet picks up. Some 6 o'clock magic might not even be needed today, of course, but we'll have a lot of a boost as the sun sets. And helicity, this is what will begin to increase much more as we head into the evening. We're talking about 100 to 200, in terms of helicity. But if we take a look at this rap sounding, I mean, look at that. 2 hours from now, 4 hours from now, you can see that increasing. And that's as your boundary layer begins to decouple later into the night. But still plenty of surface instability, and storms will be likely tornado producers. So everything's there, we have some of these composite parameters. Again, this is going to increase a lot because the helicity hasn't increased much yet. But even our significant tornado parameter, we're up to 4 in a lot of spots, and that's just the start. I mean, look at this. As we play this forward on the wrap, you're seeing an STP value getting up near 10, and likely even higher than that, of course, locally. We certainly have significant hail. Look at that, numbers of 3, 4 plus. That's significant for significant hail there, and that's going to remain pretty high as we get into the later hours of the evening too. Other things we can look at, those mid-level lapse rates. I mean, they're just juiced up to 8 degrees C per kilometer. Everything is there for a significant outbreak. I was actually doing some little work here. Basically, you take the SPC forecast, you take the spatial coverage of each risk zone, and you take the percentage associated with each for tornadoes, wind, and hail. You would expect at the very, very least 15 tornadoes today. The very least. I hate to say it, there's likely to be more, and many of these may be severe, even violent tornadoes are possible. So, a very important day to watch. Again, just wanted to document everything as we get going today. I'm sure we'll look back on this, hopefully with some positive notes. Hopefully people stay safe. But regardless, we're going to be watching this closely. And that is your May 6th, 2024 outlook on the tornado threat today. And if you're in any of these areas, if you're chasing, stay safe, and I wish you the best of luck.